Throughout the 1990s and today, the energy policies have produced a high standard of living throughout our nation. In the future, the energy policies will not only maintain but enhance the standard of living and will revolutionize the way we live substantially.
Oil is used in everything from cooking to transportation. In 1854, a Polishman was the first to drill an oil well. The U.S. consumes enormous amounts of oil per year, therefore importing the most oil in the world. Over 20 million barrels of oil per day are consumed by the U.S. alone.
If oil consumption rates stay where they are now, then oil will be depleted by 2040. However, experts are expecting a population increase, and therefore the oil depletion date will be pushed up to 2035.
Most of our domestic oil comes from offshore drilling. Offshore drilling is costly and dangerous. This method is thought to be very poor because of the pollution. Complaints regarding pollution have been heard by the government, and some areas were blocked off specifically for offshore drilling. This creates a safer environment in some areas while endangering others.
With the depletion of oil on its way, the government created the Energy Policy Act of 2005. This act allowed them to give incentives to companies and individuals who used more energy-efficient resources to fuel their homes and businesses.
Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, oil prices have fluctuated due to specific events and organizations, such as Hurricane Katrina and Iraq invading Kuwait. An example of an organization is OPEC, which is a group of countries that produce and export oil around the world. In the future, oil will not be as usable a resource as it is today. The amount of oil in the world is rapidly decreasing and will be close to gone by 2040.
With this date rapidly approaching, a massive effort to end the reliance on oil is beginning. Most companies are promoting and/or using renewable energy.
But also, with the pollution being a problem, environmentalists are becoming more concerned. The amount of CO2 emissions is becoming extremely high and dangerous.
With the growing population around the world, oil will become an obsolete resource. Current President Barack Obama is vowing to end the country's addiction to oil. He is starting a research team to find a more practical source.
To decrease oil dependency, many new regulations can be passed to limit its uses. Also, the government can gradually decrease funding for the companies. This money can fund other sources and research to replace oil.
Nuclear energy production has been gaining popularity since the 1980s and 2000s, especially with the public. Because of many emergencies and accidents such as TMI, policies and regulations have been put in place concerning safety and security. 11 years after TMI, waste was still being transported, and this really showed the true dangers of nuclear energy.
In 1992, an act was passed concerning safety and efficiency in many nuclear power plants. However, in the same act, many nuclear reactors were shown, and the prototypes for their reactors were dangerous and usually costly.
Previous emergencies in U.S. history have affected the safety regulations on many topics. This includes nuclear power plants. Due to the September 11th attack, now power plant employees must be able to defend the plant in case of a terroristic attack. To make sure the plants were ready, the U.S. Army was used to simulate what a terrorist attack would look like on a nuclear power plant.
Irregularities that were found during these tests were fixed by 2007. With the depletion of oil coming quickly, a new resource had to be found. A lot of government funding has been given to nuclear power plants over the past years. However, this funding is coming out of your tax money.
Obama has taken this government funding another step further, pushing $8 million to rebuild and upgrade many nuclear power plant reactors. In the future, nuclear power plants will be a very prevalent resource because of the fact that there is still about 100 years of uranium deposits left. Hopefully, by 2030, the U.S. will be using about 50% of its energy from nuclear power plants.
Concerning nuclear energy, there are a couple of possibilities for the future. The plan that is most likely to happen is to create a program titled the People's Nuclear Funding Program, PNFP for short. This program will require all citizens with an income of $400,000 or more a year to donate $50 a month. This money will be stored in a secure government bank, and the public will be able to vote on what this money goes to.
By attending PNFP meetings and voting there, all Americans will have an impact on the future of nuclear energy production. They can choose to use the money to repair new reactors, or they may vote to keep the money saved to create an entirely new power plant.
This program will be put in place in 2015, and when announced to the public, it will take action 50 days afterwards. Every month, mandatory donations will be accepted, and people are allowed to donate more money if they would like. This new program will employ around 2,000 Americans, helping the economy greatly.
Wages will not be as high as some would hope, but a job is better than no job at all. By 2030, around 50% of the U.S.'s energy should be supplied from these newly built reactors. This goal is very high, but with the help of Obama and future pro-nuclear presidents, it is reasonable. In the 1990s, wind was one of the top 5 energy sources in the U.S., and in 1999, Texas and Colorado increased their wind turbine farms substantially, and by 2001, wind power alone could power over 10 million homes.
However, in recent years, the American Bird Conservancy stated that about 5 birds are killed by each wind turbine every year.
With millions of turbines all over the country, this was a shock to the American public. But even with this knowledge, many still thought wind energy was the cleanest energy source available.
Another problem with wind turbines is efficiency. They are the least efficient energy source. This is due to the fact that the energy they produce is not used right away, and there is not much storage for the energy.
If these problems are not fixed, wind energy will become obsolete. However, the problems are not as simple as they seem. In order to add some sort of energy storage unit, many resources would have to be used, and if the turbines are too expensive to build, then they won't be built.
In the future, wind energy will be contributing very little to the total amount of energy. This is due to the fact that turbines are inefficient, and if the problem is fixed, the price of them will increase significantly.
Considering wind energy is not as efficient as other